Here we have 100 quick-fire revision questions for your C1 exam. So for the first question, I'm going to draw you a little picture because in the nucleus we have protons and neutrons, and then around the outside we have electrons. So protons are in the nucleus, neutrons are in the nucleus, and electrons are in the shells, and these are on the outside. The charge on a proton is +1, on a neutron is 0, and an electron is -1. A compound is two or more different elements that are chemically combined. A mixture is lots of different things that may or may not be chemically combined. An element is just a single thing, and we can find it on the periodic table. How can we use the periodic table to find the number of protons an element has? So I'm just going to draw you a quick sketch. There are two numbers in the periodic table. We would be looking for this number here, the smaller number, or as it's properly known, the atomic number. And that is going to be the smaller of the two on the periodic table, and it's generally going to be the one down here at the bottom. The number of the neutrons is the mass number minus the atomic number, and that is going to be the big number minus the small number. The number of quick change there, the number of electrons is also the atomic number. In the first electron shell there are 2 electrons, in the second there are 8, in the third there are 8. The groups in the periodic table, these are the ones that go across like this, tell us the number of electrons in the outer shell. The periods, they go down like this, tell us the number of shells. What type of ions, positive or negative, do metals form? They form positive ions, and non-metals form negative ions. Now, balancing equations is quite complicated. It'll only come up on the higher tier. But first of all, we have 2 hydrogens here, 2 oxygens here, 2 hydrogens, 2 oxygens. So we need to increase the number of oxygens over this side by popping a 2 in front of there. You can see that balances the number of oxygens, but doesn't balance the number of hydrogens, so we just need to pop a 2 in front of there as well. A touch more balancing now, so we can see that both the nitrogens and the hydrogens are it's balanced. We have 2 nitrogens here, but only 1 nitrogen over here. So I'm going to pop a 2 in front of this. So now 1 nitrogen's balanced. But you can see we have 2 hydrogens here and 6 hydrogens over this side. So I'm just going to pop a 3 over there, because 2 times 3 is 6. The next one, again, is a touch more complicated. We have 2 nitrogens and 1 nitrogen over this side. So exactly the same, I'm going to pop a 2 in front of the nitrogens here. Now we have 6 chlorines over this side and only 2 over this side. So I'm going to pop a 3 in front of there. A couple of tips when you're balancing equations. you'll notice that these two numbers here are just the other way around over here. So 2 lots of 3 is the same as 3 lots of 2. I know it's obvious, but it's just a little tip to help you out in the exam. And if you really can't work out balancing equations, if you tried, the answer is probably going to be 2. Not always, but if you write down 2, at least you've got a chance of getting some of the marks. How many elements in magnesium sulfate? We have magnesium, we have sulfur, and we have oxygen, so that is 3. How many atoms? We have 1 magnesium, we have 1 sulfur, and we have 4 oxygens, so altogether that makes 6. How many elements in lead hydroxide? We have lead, we have hydrogen, and we have oxygen, so that makes 3. We have 1 lot of lead. Because of the brackets here, this number means everything in there is times by 2. So we have 2 hydrogens and we have 2 oxygens, which gives us 5 in total. Chemical name for limestone is calcium carbonate. What is thermal decomposition? That is breaking down by heating. What are the 2 products when calcium carbonate is thermally decomposed? That is going to be calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. How do we test for carbon dioxide? It turns lime water cloudy. When we react a carbonate with dilute acid, carbon dioxide is going to be produced. So you're going to see bubbles. When we heat a metal carbonate, we are going to get a metal oxide and carbon dioxide. When we add water to calcium hydroxide, it becomes calcium hydroxide, which is lime water. 3 advantages of limestone quarries is that it gives jobs to local people. There is going to be infrastructure. So new roads and things like that, and local businesses like cafes and shops are going to benefit by the increased trade. 3 disadvantages to limestone quarries, that is going to be the noise. You could also have, you could put this down as noise pollution. They'll probably only accept one type of pollution. So you could also have dust pollution. It is going to look ugly. Some people don't like the way it looks, and there's going to be increased traffic around as well. How metals found in the ground? They are found as ores. This is going to be a metal oxide. What does the reactivity series show us? So the most reactive ones at top. And then the least reactive at the bottom. What is reduction? That is when we remove oxygen from something. Electrolysis is using electricity to separate things. An alloy is a mixture of metals. Phytomining is using plants, generally stuff like broccoli, to get copper out of the ground. Bioleaching is using bacteria to get copper. This is generally free for a large property of water, such as a lake. 3 properties of transition metals, and these are just the properties of normal metals. So who would always think that it's something special? It's not. Think of a metal. It is hard, it is shiny, and unreactive. Crude oil is a mixture of hydrocarbons. And what is a hydrogen? A hydrocarbon, that is something that has hydrogen and carbon, but only hydrogen and carbon, nothing else in them at all. Naming them now, this is, methane, ethane, propane, butane, and pentane. Remember, the A and E bit means it's an alkane, and the bit at the before tells us how many carbons it is. So meth 1, eth 2, prop 3, but 4, and pent 5. An alkane is something that only has single bonds in between the carbons. The general formula for alkanes is CnH2n plus 2. A saturated carbon, that is just another name for an alkane. In fractional distillation, the long chains come out at the bottom and the small chains come out at the top. What is the general equation for the combustion of a hydrocarbon? So that is a hydrocarbon plus oxygen is going to be carbon dioxide plus water. Give two products of combustion from fossil fuels. Again, that is going to be carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. What is the difference between complete and incomplete combustion? So complete combustion, you're going to get CO2 produced. With incomplete combustion, there's not going to be enough oxygen around, so you're going to get carbon monoxide. Which is very poisonous, very dangerous, and if your boiler is releasing lots of carbon monoxide, then it can kill you while you sleep. The problems with dust particles getting into the air is that it causes global dimming. Sulfur dioxide is dissolved in water, and that is what gives us acid rain. Catalytic converters remove some of the polluting gases from waste petrol. Climate change is so this is the new term for global warming, because especially in the UK, our winters are getting colder and colder and colder. So global warming doesn't accurately reflect what goes on in the UK, but climate change is just the changing climate due to the increased levels of carbon dioxide. We are going to get more rain, more snow, more droughts, and more floods. A biofuel is something like ethanol that we can use to power things. So 3 advantages of biofuel is that they have less pollutants, they are renewable, and they are carbon neutral, which means they absorb carbon dioxide as they grow. 3 disadvantages is that land that we use to grow biofuels could be used to produce food, which could be used to feed some of the starving people in the world. So there's an ethical issue there. The land that we have repurposed for growing biofuels used to be forests, it used to be wildlife habitats. So the destruction of habitats for the native plants, the native animals that used to be there before we decided to go and grow those biofuels on it. And I want to say behaviour of the biofuels, they have a different freezing temperature, so they will turn into a sludge at a lower temperature, and at higher temperatures it can become quite sticky. So we're going to need some new technology to deal with biofuels. We can't just put them into our cars. So cracking is turning a long hydrocarbon into a short hydrocarbon. This is because the long hydrocarbons aren't very useful, whereas the short hydrocarbons are useful. So an alkene is something that has double bonds in between carbons, and an unsaturated hydrocarbon, again, is just an alkene. This here is ethene. Here we have propane, butane, and pentane. And the general formula for these is CH2NCnH2n. What is a test for unsaturated double bonds? You add bromine water, and if double bonds are present, it goes colourless. A monomer just means one bit, and a polymer means many bits. How do monomers turn into polymers? That is by polymerization. Got the two different ways of making ethanol. We have fermentation and hydration. So fermentation, we take sugar, we pop some yeast in there, and then out we get ethanol and carbon dioxide. Given advantage of using fermentation is renewable. A disadvantage is the land that it takes up to grow it. For making ethanol from hydration, we have ethene plus water or steam. It's going to go to ethanol. So one advantage is there's no wastage. So at A level we would call this 100% ethanol economy, because everything in the products goes into making, everything in the reaction, goes into making the products. Whereas with fermentation we have carbon dioxide as a waste product, there's no waste product going on down here. A disadvantage is that crude oil is non-renewable. How do we extract oils from plants? We can do that by distillation. How do we harden vegetable oils? We add hydrogen, a catalyst, and a high temperature. And soft fats are better for you. An emulsion is a mixture of oil and water. Hydrophobic, so water is hydro and phobic is hating. Water hating and hydrophilic is water. And then just the opposite, philic loving. Why do we add E numbers to food? Lots and lots of different reasons. To preserve them, to improve the texture or the taste. Starting with the outer crust, name all the layers of the earth. outer crust and then the mantle. Not forgetting, of course, that the atmosphere is all around the outside. So what evidence? There are two pieces of evidence that the continents used to be giants. This is the fossil patterns and the shape of the continents. How they move the parts, these are convection currents. In the mantle. What was in the Earth's early atmosphere? There was lots of carbon dioxide, there was lots of ammonia, and there was lots of sulfur and sulfur dioxide. So I always tell my students that it smelled like really stinky baby nappies and really eggy farts. 2 ways carbon dioxide was removed. This is by photosynthesis. And dissolving in the oceans. Millet and Urey showed that amino acids could be formed, which are the building blocks of life under the conditions of the early atmosphere. The main gas in today's atmosphere is nitrogen. And what does oxide carbon refer to? That is the carbon stored in rocks. And fossil fuels. And are you going to do amazingly well in your exam? Yes, of course you are, because you've worked really, really hard. Well done. Thanks for watching. I really hope this is helpful. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos. Share to help your friends get better grades. Any comments, corrections, questions or requests down below, please.